Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Shila Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Prajakacharya Stotra Satasri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Prajakacharya Stotra Satasri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Oh, my dear devotees who have joined on Zoom, I would like to request you, as far as possible, to put on your cameras so we can see your lotus faces and it will be more personal. Our topic today is cooperation. And those of you who are familiar with Srila Prabhupada and the history of ISKCON will know how important cooperation was. In Vrindavan, towards the end, Srila Prabhupada told the devotees, as Tamal Krishna Goswami recorded in his diary, quote, "Your love for me will be tested how after my departure you maintain this institution. We have glamour and people are feeling our weight. This should be maintained." Later, Tamal Krishna Goswami told Satsvarupa Das Goswami that Prabhupada had said, quote, "Your love for me will be shown by how much you cooperate to keep this institution together after I am gone." The same message. And as His Holiness Bhakti True Swami Maharaj recalled, quote, "When Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan during his last days, Tamal Krishna would read him the letters that devotees wrote to Srila Prabhupada, and His Divine Grace would dictate his replies, and sometimes he would also make comments. One devotee had written that he wanted to offer his longevity to Srila Prabhupada so that he could continue to be with us on this planet. It was a very sweet letter, steeped with emotion. However, Srila Prabhupada reacted in a rather unusual way and commented that our real love for him would be shown by how we cooperate with each other to continue his mission. That incident left a very deep impression in my heart, and I became aware that the best way to show my love for Srila Prabhupada is through my cooperation with the devotees of ISKCON who are serving his divine grace so sincerely to continue his mission. And Srila Prabhupada made the same point in a letter in 1973, quote, "The test of our actual dedication and sincerity to serve the spiritual master will be in this mutual cooperative spirit to push on this movement and not make factions and deviate." So implicit in the concept of cooperation, or the ideal of cooperation, is cooperating for a higher cause. And in our case, in particular, and in ISKCON, the higher cause is to serve Srila Prabhupada and please Srila Prabhupada. So I looked up in the dictionary the definition of cooperate. And the dictionary gave two. One, to act or work with another or others. Act together or in compliance. Two, to associate with another or others for mutual benefit. Now that's the definition of cooperate. And then the definition of cooperation, the actions of someone who is being helpful by doing what is wanted or asked for. Common effort. So Srila Prabhupada wrote many letters in which he emphasized the spirit of cooperation, the necessity for cooperation. To Upendra on August 6, 1970, he wrote, "Now all my disciples must work combinedly and with cooperation to spread the Sankirtan movement. If you cannot work together, then my work is stopped. Our society is like one big family, and our relationships should be based on love and trust." And to Anuttama, on April 12th, 1972, he wrote, "I am very pleased to know that you are feeling happy in your execution of devotional service. Service of Krishna's devotees is the highest stage of spiritual perfection. So your desire to render service to the other devotees is very nice. You keep this humble attitude always, and your example will be a source of spiritual inspiration for everyone." So in our cooperative efforts, and in general, every devotee should feel himself or herself to be the servant of the other devotees. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada instructed us to address one another as Prabhu. Prabhu means master. So if we address another devotee as Prabhu, as master, it means that we are the servant of the Prabhu. And that sense of being the servant of the other devotees should be fixed within our hearts. And that word Prabhu should not just be an empty term. As Srila Prabhupada commented, we shouldn't say, "Oh, Prabhu, can you please bring me my shoes?" That's not the meaning of Prabhu. So, yes, Srila Prabhupada wrote in this very nice letter, you keep this humble attitude always, and your example will be a source of spiritual inspiration for everyone. And then in a letter dated August 24th, 1972, Srila Prabhupada wrote to Madhudvisa and Amoga. Now I want all of you to work cooperatively and very frankly. It's very important. Now I want all of you to work cooperatively and very frankly. This is our process. Not that we shall always plot and scheme and write letters. And then finally, this is also a very nice definition of cooperation. This is in a letter from Srila Prabhupada to Madhu Mangal, dated November 18th, 1972. We should not criticize each other as Vaishnavas, because there is fault in everyone, and we may ourselves be subject to criticism. The best thing is to be above suspicion ourselves. Then, if we see discrepancies and make suggestions, the others will automatically respect and take action to rectify. That is cooperation. And we must exist on such cooperation. Otherwise, the whole thing is doomed if we simply go on fighting over some small thing. So try to organize things and preach together in the spirit, and that will please me very, very much. And then finally, in a letter to Satsvarupa Maharaj, dated January 5th, 1976, everything should be done cooperatively. Ours and yours are material conceptions and have no place in our Krishna consciousness movement. If the members of our movement are unable to cooperate, it will be very difficult to spread the mission of Lord Chaitanya. So we can see how essential working cooperatively is for the success of the Krishna consciousness movement. I mean, sometimes I've been faced with difficult choices. There was one incident when a senior devotee came to Bombay after Srila Prabhupada left, so a little after Srila Prabhupada left. And he wanted me to, give him some money from one of Srila Prabhupada's accounts that was under my jurisdiction. And frankly, I didn't think that that Prabhupada would want the money, his personal money, so to speak, to be spent in that way. But I also considered that if I didn't give the money, the devotee would be very upset. I mean, personally, I didn't mind if he was upset with me, if I was doing the right thing for Srila Prabhupada. But I knew that Srila Prabhupada wanted us to cooperate. And I felt that in this case, I mean, this may not be the best example, but I thought in this case, it was a higher principle to maintain a congenial mood amongst the devotees, especially in Srila Prabhupada's absence, than to worry about that particular amount of money. So I did that, and I felt I had done the right thing. There was another incident during Srila Prabhupada's presence. There's a little background to this history, but I joined ISKCON in Boston, and Satsvarupa Maharaj, he was a Grihastha then. Satsvarupa was the temple president, and he was the editor of Back to Godhead magazine. And he was always eager to get articles. So I wrote one on the subject of Guru. And because of the natural delay between the time when the article was submitted and the time when the magazine was printed, by the time the magazine appeared, I was already in India with Srila Prabhupada in Gorakhpur. And so the magazine came, Srila Prabhupada read the article, and he asked me to come into his room. And he said, "I've read your article. It is very nice. You should take up writing as your first business." And he said, "You know, you travel with me for some time and I will guide you." So anyway, some time passed, little time passed, and Srila Prabhupada wanted us to have a Pandal program at Cross Maidan. In fact, just recently we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Pandal program at Cross Maidan. And that was the 50th anniversary of the first time that His Holiness Radhanath Swami and His Holiness Lokanath Swami saw Srila Prabhupada and me. Well, that wasn't very important, but it was the first time they saw Srila Prabhupada, 50th anniversary. So anyway, Srila Prabhupada had told me to write, and in those days we didn't have computers or even typewriters were quite rare. So I bought some lined paper and some pens and pencils so I could write. And when I got to Bombay, Shamsundar Prabhu, who was the temple president, said that He wanted me he wanted me to collect advertisements for the souvenir book that we were going to publish for the Pandau program. And I said, well, Srila Prabhupada told me to write, that I should write as my first business. And Shamsundar Prabhu said, yes, but you can write anytime. But this is one time we can go to any man's office in the city and ask for an ad for our souvenir book. And he can give an advertisement, and it won't cost him personally any money at all. It will come out as a business expense. So you should do this, and then later on, you can write. So I thought two things. One, that what Shamsundar Prabhu said made sense, and two, that Srila Prabhupada wanted us to cooperate with our authorities. So I did what he said, and I collected quite well. Then Srila Prabhupada came to Bombay, and was usual, when he arrived, he went into his room, and all the devotees went into his room and sat down, and he looked at all the, glanced lovingly at all the devotees and exchanged a few words with each one. It was very personal. And then he said to me, so Giriraj, how is your writing going? And I was completely flustered. I didn't know what to say. So he said, all right, we'll discuss later. So then a little later, after all the other devotees had left the room, he called me back. And he said, so how is your writing going? And then I explained what had happened, that what Shamsundar Prabhu had told me, and that it made sense. And that, I knew that Prabhupada wanted us to cooperate with our authorities. So taking everything into consideration, I decided to cooperate with Shamsundar Prabhu and collect ads for the Pandau program. But still, I was very apprehensive because I didn't know how Srila Prabhupada would respond. I wasn't sure if I had done the right thing in his estimation. And Srila Prabhupada replied that that one can suspend the order of the spiritual master, but one can never neglect it. Just like my Guru Maharaj instructed me to write, but I've been so busy traveling and preaching in India, I hardly have time to write myself nowadays. So I found that Srila Prabhupada was very understanding, and he indirectly supported my cooperating with my authority. So yeah, that cooperation is essential. Srila Prabhupada told a story on a couple of occasions. He told a story of a father who was on his deathbed, and his sons were massaging him. But they were not cooperating in their service. So, one was massaging the right arm, and another said, no, I want to massage the right arm. You massage the left arm. And another was saying, no, I want to massage the left arm. You massage the left leg. And while the sons were all quarreling about how to massage the father died. And Srila Prabhupada gave this example to illustrate the result of not cooperating. In other words, the sons were not cooperating, and the result was they couldn't serve the father properly. And in the meantime, he died. And in Srila Prabhupada's last days in Vrindavan, a number of us were massaging him like that. Some on the right leg, some on the left leg, some on the right hand, some on the left hand. And but it was very peaceful and harmonious, done in a spirit of cooperation. And Tamal Krishna Goswami commented to Srila Prabhupada that the sons are cooperating for the service of the father as a positive example, in contrast to the story that Prabhupada told about the sons who were quarreling about massaging the father. But the real essence is to feel oneself to be the servant of the servant of the servant. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself identified himself. I'm not a Brahmin, I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a Vaishya, I'm not a Shudra, I'm not a Brahmachari, I'm not a Grihastha, I'm not a Vanaprastha, I'm a sannyasi. Then what are you? Gopi Bhartu Padakamalayur Dasa Dasa Anudasa. I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, the maintainer of the Gopi damsels of Vrindavan. So that is our actual identity. And when there was quarreling in a temple, Srila Prabhupada said that if everyone thinks of himself as the servant of the other devotees, then the quarreling will stop. And but in another context, when there was quarreling in a temple, Srila Prabhupada said that the devotees should all engage in common activities together. Of course, we have our morning program, and take prasad together, go on Harinam Sankirtan together, engage in activities together. And then that fighting spirit will diminish or go away. So, my dear devotees, thank you for joining us. We have about 15 minutes left, and with Mother Prashanta's permission, we can take questions and comments. And I guess the first priority, if there has to be a choice, would be to go to the VIHE students. But Prashanta Devidasi, can you?
Yes, Maharaj, yes, we welcome the questions. Thank you for all the wonderful insights, Maharaj. So please go ahead, devotees. You may ask questions.
Okay, I saw someone. Oh, I see some hands going up. Well, why don't you choose who should speak first?
The first one is Ratnam, Bhakta Ratnam from Sri Lanka.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Are you in Sri Lanka or you're just from Sri Lanka?
I am from Sri Lanka, Maharaj.
Yeah.
I'm in Sri Lanka right now.
Yeah, I've been to Sri Lanka.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I'm one of the early devotees there.
When was that, Maharaj? Maybe long time back you might be.
Oh, yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisance, Maharaj. Maharaj, this is very fine. This is very nice, Maharaj. Among devotees, we need to cooperate. This is all right. If we are dealing with some non-devotees, like say example with relatives and friends and colleagues, do we still? There will be a lot of misunderstanding, and sometimes when we deal with them, they wanted to make pressure on us. They wanted to lord it. So in that case, do we still need to be humbly cooperate with them, or we need to keep aloof, means distance from them? What is the best way we need to how to handle this non-devotional people, Prabhuji? Please answer.
That's a good question.
Mhm.
Um, in bhakti, our ultimate goal is to please Krishna.
Mhm. Yes, Maharaj.
Please Srila Prabhupada, please Parampara. So in every situation we can think, what would Krishna want me to do? And in general, we are advised not to associate too intimately with non-devotees because it's just not favorable for Krishna consciousness. And the process of surrender, sharanagati, the first two items are anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam, to accept whatever is favorable and to reject whatever is unfavorable. So there are many verses in Shastra about not associating intimately with non-devotees. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that in the workplace, we will mingle with non-devotees. And, we can be polite with them and cordial with them, but we should not take their advice on any spiritual matters. So that's okay. But I've also heard, in the workplace that people try to get ahead,
Mhm. Yes.
their careers at the expense of others, and they do things to promote themselves and keep you down. And, it really is a matter of your priorities, how much is at stake, both materially and spiritually. But yeah, I mean, if necessary, you can stick up for yourself. Don't just let people take advantage of you. Because ultimately, we hope that whatever prestige you get in your work, that will be used for Krishna, for the glory of Krishna. Whatever money you get from your work will be used for the service of Krishna. So if it's all done for Krishna, then there's no harm. But if it becomes so disturbing to your consciousness, then maybe it's not worth it. Yeah, it'll be a very individual matter.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you for nice. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Next, I think we have Ambika Devidasi and then Sitarani Devidasi.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Please accept my humble obeisances. I wanted to ask that how can we approach for cooperation if there's, for example, a temple or a group of devotees? So should it be through authorities, or can we just go and suggest on our own? What is a proper way to deal with this kind of situation?
You mean a situation where a devotee needs to be corrected?
Perhaps in a situation where the situation itself needs to be corrected.
Oh. If it's in your power to correct it, then you can correct it yourself. And if it's not in your power to correct it, but it needs to be corrected, then you could approach an authority. Yeah. Cooperation means we cooperate for a higher principle, which, as I mentioned in our case, would be, for the service of Srila Prabhupada and his mission. But yeah, in the name of cooperation or in the name of being humble, we shouldn't let things deteriorate. Okay. Next.
Sitarani.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my most humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. I have a question, Maharaj, that sometimes we work with different devotees on a project, and sometimes the mindset and the ideas for that project may be completely different. So how do we really cooperate, especially if one of the devotees is really senior to you? How do we really come to that point of cooperation in such a scenario to make that project a success and yet not really have bad relationship in the team?
That's also a very good question. But even given that a devotee more senior than you has an idea that's not so good for the project, you could try to persuade that devotee, or else maybe approach someone like more superior than that devotee. Yeah, we want, we want the best for Srila Prabhupada's movement, but at the same time, we want to maintain congenial relationships amongst the devotees, which is also important for Prabhupada's mission. So, yeah, sometimes we need to approach a higher authority.
Should we take another question, Maharaj? Or
Well, I see 4 hands are up, so.
Advaita Krishna Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare
So
Krishna.
nice to have your kind association again after so many years.
Are you in Mauritius?
I am in Mauritius, Maharaj, yes.
Yeah, I was scheduled to come in December.
Yes.
This COVID pandemic, I had to.
We're looking forward to your kind association. Maharaj, I have first one small comment, a remembrance that I had with you, and then I have a question, if you may allow.
Sure.
Yes. In the mid-90s, we were with you together in your room upstairs with some devotees, and you mentioned something that has stayed with me, that instructions. And my comment was in relationship to working together, and I had asked, and I quite remember very clearly, and I said, Maharaj, Prabhupada said we can just work together as a happy family, but how come we can't? And your answer was very touching, and you said, well, we can only cooperate when we advance. So I always remember that so nicely. So, and it's been something that has helped me to advance in my Krishna consciousness. So I thank you for that.
Thanks
so much. And my question would be, Maharaj, is sometimes we may ask some question, or you may make a proposition in relationship to us in related to our service or to some issues at hand, and we may be asking or doing these propositions or questions for the right reason, but somehow someone may get offended and it may damage our relationship. So how do we act in this situation, Maharaj? Please kindly enlighten us.
Yes, that can happen. That with all good intentions, we make a suggestion, but the person takes it in the wrong way and feels offended. And in that case, the best thing is, ordinarily, the best thing is to, frankly, Srila Prabhupada used that word, that we should be frank in our dealings, and say, you were just, trying to make a suggestion for the benefit of the project or the service, and you didn't mean to offend the person. And and ask him to forgive you. I mean, maybe you didn't do anything wrong to be forgiven, but then again, maybe there was some defect in the presentation that allowed the person to take it the wrong way. So yeah, it's always good to ask for forgiveness. My own policy, like there might be a disagreement, and say, for example, I might be 10% wrong and the other person might be 90% wrong. But I still ask forgiveness for my 10%. I mean, I don't say I was 10% wrong and you were 90%, but I acknowledge where I was wrong and I ask to be forgiven for that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Being forgiven is very important. It's good to be forgiven, and it's good for the person who's doing the forgiving. It's good for both. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Bhakta Pratik.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. Thank you so much for this wonderful class. I wanted to ask about the principle that you mentioned, the incident with Shyamsundar Prabhu. So I had a question that, is it necessary for us to accept managerial authority as spiritual authority, like someone who is in a higher position? Is it necessary that we accept them as a spiritual authority and follow their instructions? Or is there any higher principle in this regard, Maharaj?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what you mean, because in ISKCON, all the authorities are supposed to be spiritual authorities. Shyamsundar Prabhu was the temple president, but I took him as a spiritual authority. But of course, it was awkward because the supreme authority, Srila Prabhupada, had given one instruction and Shyamsundar Prabhu was giving a different instruction. But again, as I mentioned, what his reasons made sense to me, and I knew Prabhupada wanted us to cooperate with our authorities. So I did agree to what he said, and I'm happy I did. It was the right decision. So when you say, maybe if you gave an example of an authority giving like a managerial instruction that might not be good spiritually, is that what you're asking about?
Just like someone might be in a managerial position, suggesting decision for our spiritual advancement, but our spiritual authority feels otherwise. Like in your case, Prabhupada instructed you one thing, but Shyamsundar Prabhu had a different idea, which was also sensible. In your case, the situation made very much sense, but in some situation, it doesn't make sense. So reconciling both authorities becomes difficult.
Well, ideally, the spiritual authority and the managerial authority would speak to each other and come to a decision together. So you're not caught between two conflicting authorities. That's an awkward position, to be caught between two conflicting authorities. So the best thing is if they, you can even say to each of them, I respect you as my authority. I want to do what you say, but my other authority is saying something else. So why don't the two of you discuss and come to a conclusion, and I'll do whatever you decide.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Right.
Okay, maybe we try one more. Nilamani Prabhu.
Then would pronounce.
Right.
So my question is, sometimes, with all good intentions, in a yatra or in a group of devotees, there are just devotees that have personality conflicts or simply just cannot get on together with each other. I mean, everyone is devotional, they're committed and so forth, but when you bring them together, it's like water and oil. And out of that, you get, it's like the influence of Maya, bad feeling and resentment and all of these negative kinds of emotions. And I see it happening in all different devotional situations, including affecting me personally also. So any advice or suggestions, how do we handle ourselves in those kinds of situations or resolve that?
Well, if devotees are conditioned, I mean, of course, we are conditioned to different degrees, but if devotees are more conditioned, then it's probably better that they work with people that they can get along with. Like I heard in the Indian Army, they have a Punjabi battalion and Marwari, because people from those cultures, they just naturally get along more easily because of their common background. So instead of trying to put everyone together, they let the groups form naturally, in this case, according to their, I guess, ethnic community. So yeah, if devotees are not able to transcend their differences, then it might be better just to let the ones that get along with each other naturally to work with each other. Yeah. Maybe in our next, we're going to have another session in 3 or 4 days on the subject of cooperation. And there's a very good verse and purport in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that I think could address this issue. So come back for the next session. And it's really a beautiful purport, and it's such a guideline for us as devotees how to have the proper relationships with each other.
We'll definitely be back. Thank you.
We may take one more question. It's already 8:36. Amritesh Gordas.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, your specific instruction that how we may delay the instruction to be followed, but we should not neglect, it inspires me a lot. And sometimes when we are not in this spirit of cooperation, our mind is distracted. This instruction I remember and I get a lot of strength to continue. And one question, Maharaj, I had, we are preaching to congregation. Sometimes there are some devotees who are senior in age and also in their initiation and everything, but they want a specific role in the congregation. However, their style of preaching does not appeal to the newcomers. So sometimes it becomes a little difficult to cooperate with them. They are not our authorities, but still because they are a part of congregation. So how should we deal with those kind of senior devotees?
Mhm. And who are the leaders of the congregation? I mean, you are. Are there other leaders of the congregation?
I am the assistant of one other leader. He is with us from the temple. We are two of us, and we both are cooperating. But about the some other devotees who are not cooperating, that kind of.
But can he deal with the devotees who are not cooperating from the congregation?
I am also not able to deal with them so much because they want a leading position. They want to give class, but they don't want to attend the class at the beginning.
Oh, no, they have to attend class. You can tell them. Srila Prabhupada made that rule in Vrindavan, that anyone who gives class, he has to attend the class. And, you know, in his later period with us, Srila Prabhupada, he was sick, but he would go and attend the classes of his disciples in the Vrindavan temple. So I think that's a very reasonable requirement, that if they want to give class, they have to attend class.
Okay. But their ideology is little different. And when they want to preach the newcomers, when they are preaching the newcomers, they sometimes don't try to motivate them in the fashion of Krishna consciousness, but sometimes they impose so much of rules and regulations that the newcomers don't get attracted. That's how we are not able to cooperate with them. But there are quite many senior devotees whom we find around us. How to take them together and also inspire them to help us, Maharaj.
Yeah, that's a problem. Well, can you coach them how to preach better so that newcomers are attracted and not discouraged? I mean, that would, like what they say, a win-win. You know, they would win and then the people who hear them would win. But they're not that submissive.
No, they're not there.
Okay. I guess just say, I don't know, but I don't think we should. Well, all right, then the last calculation, I guess the last calculation would be, you know, profit and loss. So if you let them give the class and the result is that some new people are discouraged by the heavy mood. So that's one scenario. And then the other is that you don't let them give the class and then they're upset, but the new people are not discouraged. So between those two cases, overall, what do you think is the greater gain and which is the greater loss? You understand my question?
Yes, Maharaj. I understood it. I think the second one would be the right option.
Okay.
But I depend on your answer.
No, the second is that they don't give the class.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I give you my, I wish you all the best in dealing with them. I'll pray that they become humble. The basic problem is they're not humble.
Yes.
Pray they become humble.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for leading us in this exploration of the topic of cooperation. I think everybody could feel the sore point. Question after questions, we can see how cooperation is so difficult. And it is connected, of course, with our submissiveness to authority, which with our growing society, which has now many, many aspects. In the beginning of ISKCON, of course, the structure was just temple president, temple devotees, and Srila Prabhupada. The authority structure was more simple, and we would say. Now we are having what our GBCs have coined the parallel lines of authorities. We have so many lines of authorities. We have congregations that are organized themselves, many times outside of the temples. And then we have devotees who never go through ashram training and have never trained in the concept of following an authority. So I think all the questions we have heard were very much revealing the great difficulty, how to cooperate with each other, and seeing all the different parameters, seniors, juniors, pure-hearted, others, all together. So thank you, Maharaj. I think you were very brave in answering all these questions, which were all very difficult because this is not philosophical questions. It's a very practical questions, and cooperation is on the ground. It is a direct application of both the philosophy and of our faith and of the qualities within us. It's most difficult. That's, as we know, why Prabhupada said that. Our love for him will be shown by how we actually interact with each other and are capable of cooperating, because that's the most difficult thing. So I hope everyone is satisfied and enlivened. I certainly am. And we are looking forward to the next session, in a couple of days, actually, I believe on the 16th. We're having another session, and we are looking forward to hear more from you, Maharaj, more enlightening words and insights on this topic of cooperation, which is so essential to our spiritual life.
Just one, I wouldn't say it's a humorous note, but it's a different note. Srila Prabhupada had come to Los Angeles. I was based in Bombay, but my health wasn't good, and at a certain stage, Srila Prabhupada said, as long as I stay in Bombay, it won't get better. So I went to America, spent a little time in Chicago, and then went to Los Angeles. So in Los Angeles, one of our very important life members and supporters from Bombay came to meet Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada said, kindly cooperate. And then after the life member left, Mr. Bridgerton Mota, asked Srila Prabhupada, what does that mean, cooperate? And he said, it means to do what I say.
All right, so on this sweet note, Maharaj, we end our session for today.
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada. Yes, something
Yes.
more?
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Let's offer Vaishnava Pranam to conclude.
All right, all right.
Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripastandive Patitanam Bhavane
Vaishnavi.
Antakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai. Giriraj Swami Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna to everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.